This world that we live in runs at a frantic pace. And if we're not careful, we can get swept away with the urgency, the things that are right in front of us, and there's always more to be done at the end of the day. But rest is one of the most vital things that drives our life too. It's so easily overlooked, but so impactful in our journey towards healing and wholeness. And we're going to talk about that today.
Recovery can be hard, but it's worth it. There is hope knowing we can find healing one step at a time with Jesus and healthy community. Whether you're struggling with a hurt or a hang-up or a habit, you're not alone. During this podcast, we share real stories, practical tools, and powerful truths that inspire you to keep moving forward. No matter where you are on your journey, there's hope ahead. So stick with us as we walk this path together through Celebrate Recovery.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome back to Hope in Recovery, a Fellowship Celebrate Recovery podcast that talks recovery conversations, life change stories, and lessons learned on this road towards recovery and healing and wholeness. And we're super grateful to be back in the studio today and filming another episode of this. And hey, we just want to say before we get going, like always, if you're getting something out of this, please, if you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Give us a like. If you're listening on one of your podcast apps like Apple Podcasts or Spotify, give us a rating. It really helps to kind of get the word out about what's going on in this powerful process of recovery found through Jesus Christ here through the ministry of Celebrate Recovery. And so super grateful to be here with you today. Let me introduce myself. I am a grateful believer in Jesus Christ. I struggle with anxiety and depression, sexual addiction and grief, and my name is Andy.
What's up, Andy?
Hey, and I get the great pleasure of being able to serve as the ministry leader for Celebrate Recovery at Fellowship Fayetteville. And with me here today is my good friend and brother and co-worker and co-laborer in Christ and a bunch of other adjectives and nouns I'm sure I can talk about with him. But hey, go ahead and introduce yourself, man.
Yeah, I'm a grateful believer in Jesus. I struggle with sexual integrity, codependency, food issues, pride, and I would say in lieu of today's topic, I struggle with rest. And my name is Michael.
Hey, Michael. Oh, man. And Michael, what do you do, man?
I help lead our team here up in Rogers, Celebrate Recovery team, and all other duties as assigned. So, yeah. So just
I love it.
Just serving and loving our people up here in Rogers. So,
man, well, I love you, man. Grateful for your leadership and friendship, man, and really grateful for your insight and wisdom as we lean into this topic of rest. And Michael, you just got a chance to take a couple weeks off here. Every now and then they allow us to do that here, and you were able to take some intentional extended time off to rest and recreate and kind of unplug, man. And so I think first off, as we think about this idea of rest, why do you think it's so hard for us to slow down over the course of our life and our recovery? And what does that look like for you?
I think probably one of the first things that comes to my mind why it's hard to rest would be societal influence. I think we definitely live in a society that, especially here in the United States, where it's busy, where we got to get to work, we got to do this, we got to do, and not all that's bad. Like, I think I know work is a good thing. But then it becomes this pursuit of why am I working? Well, I got to get more money, and I got to do this, and I got to do that, and I got to stay busy. We got to be productive, and I think so. Society plays into that. It's hard for me to turn that off sometimes. I think a lot of it has to do. I think a lot of it's spiritual in that a lot of my value comes from what I do. And so when I'm in an unhealthy space, you know, and so it's like, all right, the more that I do, the more value I have. So if I do a whole lot, then man, I was really valuable this week, or I was really, you know, and so it's like, I think some of it is spiritual, some unhealthy views of value. And so I think it's just, and I also think too, for me personally, like I think personality plays into it as well. Like my mind is just always just going. And so sometimes it's really hard for me to shut my mind down in a healthy way that helps me to just like, you know, okay, hey, like I don't have to just keep spinning and thinking and moving and all that. And so because it can get very exhausting, you know, to keep doing that. And so I think there's a lot of things that play into why rest is so hard. And I know we're going to talk about this probably, but just why did God why did he have to command us to rest? Like he didn't say like, hey, you should rest, it'd be a good thing. He said, no, like keep the Sabbath, and like you need to rest, you need to take time off. And so it's interesting why God had to tell us to do that.
Yeah, and it is interesting going to the whole societal aspect of it. You know, I think a couple years ago there was a major kind of earth-shaking thing that happened called a pandemic. And we all got forced to slow down. It was almost as if society just paused. And we're all in our homes. We're all out of our normal rhythms. We're all out of our normal structures. And like one of the redemptive things, not saying that whole thing was a redemptive thing, but one of the redemptive things that came out of it, I know for me, was realizing how much I just wasn't slowing down. And, it's interesting thinking about, modern technology is a blessing. Like being connected is a blessing. The way that we can communicate with one another, the fact that I can pick up my phone and, last night on my way home, I called my mom who lives 5 hours away, and we were able to have a conversation. I was on a Zoom call yesterday with a guy in the UK and a guy in Germany, and we were talking real-time recovery stuff. And it was really cool to see that. But also, when I look at my phone, on my phone right now, there are, I think I counted it a couple months ago, there are 9 different avenues where somebody can have immediate access to me. Through email, text, phone, through Facebook Messenger, through direct message on Instagram. Like, there are so many ways. We are more connected than ever before. And with particular with technology, it is a constant bombardment. I know yesterday I got a text message at 2:30 in the morning. And if we're not careful of putting boundaries around that, like this world will suck us dry, man.
And I think this is sort of a separate topic, but I think it's not as much that we're connected as that we're more accessible.
Oh, that's a good distinction. That's a good distinction.
And it's like, because real connection, it's like, man, we're more accessible than ever, but are we really connected with people? And so what does that true connection look like? And I think that does tie into rest, about
it does.
Getting reconnected.
Well, you talk about our brain being able to slow down. Like, when there's certain studies that have said, like the ideal, like nobody can have more than like, I'm going to butcher the number, but it's definitely less than 10 really close friends
that you're connected with, you're investing in,
and like even surface level relationships, we can only retain about 150 of those. And I think I've got like 1,400 quote unquote Facebook friends, and I'm dating myself now as a millennial. I still have Facebook, but like I think that really does play into it, because with the accessibility, there also becomes an implicit obligation sometimes of like, I need to lean into that. And that's more of a struggle for some than it does for others. but it definitely plays into, at the very least, it is another thing taking up my mental and emotional space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I only have. I would really love to think that my, power meter or whatever you want to call it, right? Like energy meter is infinite, but it starts to go down, and again, I know we'll probably get into some of this, but with rest, I think the purpose of rest, and I'm starting to realize this more and more, is to healthily recognize my humanity.
Yeah.
And like dependence on Christ, because if I try to live my life as a being who needs no rest, quote unquote, then I'm gonna slap into reality, and it's gonna hurt really bad. Yeah. And so if I don't rest, I know that oftentimes, because I'm operating in a lot of pride, ultimately, is because it's like I don't need to slow down. I don't need to take time for self-care. I don't need to do this. I don't need to do that. I'm gonna grit my teeth and bear it and just move through life and get her done. And that's just who I am. And eventually and sometimes it catches up quicker with some people than others, but it will catch up with you.
Yeah. There's a couple things that you said in there that I think are so key to think through. I think first off, it's not just that society is continually kind of like assaulting our attention and vying for our attention, but this is something I've heard Rodney say. Not just that society is assaulting our attention all the time, but it's also so much easier to do than to be. Mm-hmm. And you think about how God created us. In the beginning, He created over the course of 7 days. On the seventh day, He rested. Mm-hmm. We were made on the sixth day, and our first day, full day, was the seventh day.
Yeah.
And so we were created to work out of rest, not for rest.
Yeah.
And so often I get that switched around. Mm-hmm. But oftentimes, too, God created me to rest in Him, to have relationship with Him, to draw my strength from Him. But because it's so much easier to do than to be, rather than resting in Him and finding my strength in Him, I try to find my worth in anything I feel like I can control or achieve or do. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you've ever tried to live in that cycle, but man, that is a dry well.
Yeah. Yeah, two things with that. The first thing is going back to God rested. The irony is that He's the only one who doesn't need to rest.
Yeah.
And He still took a day to rest. And I think that it's obviously for our benefit.
Yeah.
It's like, if God's taking time to quote unquote rest, He's not doing it because He needs it. He's doing it because He's trying to tell us something. So it's like, yet again, another example of like, hey, I need you to do this. Follow my example. And then, as you were sharing at the end there, just operating from a place of out of rest. And so that's a really, really hard thing to do, because like you said, it is so much easier for me to do than to be. And I think that was one thing that I realized, and I'm still realizing, is that just simply being puts me in this place. Again, for me, it just goes back to a lot of value. If I'm just sitting here doing nothing, and not saying that's like the perpetual state I need to be in, right? Work 6 days, rest 1 day. Like the example there again is like work and rest work together.
Yeah.
But like when I'm just sitting and I'm not doing anything, it's like, man, I get so uncomfortable sometimes, and I get really, really, I just feel weird, and I felt some of that, I felt a lot of that, just kind of like, all right, like what do I do, and it's just be, and so I think all of the noise of life can distract from what's really going on in our heart, in my my heart and my mind, and so the busyness of life just has a way of getting in the way of, okay, what am I really thinking? What am I really feeling? And I think part of intentional rest is examining myself honestly and going, what is actually going on in my heart and mind?
Dude, that is such a good segue to the second half of our conversation.
Yeah.
And we will have that second half of our conversation on the other side of this break, man. Love having this convo with you, man.
Hey, Forever family. Being in a community of fellow strugglers who are committed to working their recoveries is essential to our success in having victory over our hurts, hang-ups, and habits. Every Friday night, we have a Celebrate Recovery meeting at Fellowship Fayetteville and Fellowship Rogers. At 6 p.m., we have a great meal for connection with other recovery brothers and sisters. Then we meet for large group at 7 p.m., followed by an open share group at 8. Same schedule on both campuses. Different teachers, different worship teams, but the same great experience. We'd love for you to join us this Friday night. It's never too late to start or start over again. For more information, go to fellowshipcr.org.
Well, we're back from our break. Man, talking about the importance of rest, the reality that it's hard to rest in this world, between society, between the own expectations that we put on ourselves, the way that it really is so much easier to do than be in this world. And right before the break, Michael, you were kind of leaning into just how you have felt the fatigue in your life and the importance of one aspect of rest being some honest introspection. And so I think that's a good direction to go, man. Like, what have you found to be helpful things to help cultivate rest in your life, man?
I mean, the reason I'm laughing is I'm like, man, I think I'm in the early stages of learning that, what does that actually look like? I'm realizing for me, it's helpful to get out of a familiar space and get in kind of an unfamiliar space.
Yeah.
And typically I'm realizing more and more just being out in nature. So an unfamiliar space outside is like very, very, and that's a very practical thing, but it's just, there's something about if I'm sitting even in my house, or I'm sitting at my desk, or I'm sitting by my computer, or there's just something about my mind will continue to like focus on all of that, versus if I get somewhere else and there's kind of like, I feel almost this ability to unplug a little bit. And so having an unfamiliar space is helpful for me. But then I think the intentionality of rest is what I'm really trying to learn, is that rest isn't just distraction or numbing, and so it's that, okay, I'm going to play video games for 3 hours. It's like, I rested. Well, it's like, I think that can be part of rest, is having fun or recreational stuff or whatever. It's like, but really that's not the intentionality for me that I think helps me to recharge. And so
that's so good. Rest is not inactivity.
Yeah. Not always.
Not always.
Yeah.
Rest is an intentional pursuit of refreshing and recharging from the Lord.
Yeah.
And sometimes that does look like, you know what? I am going to watch Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back.
Amen.
Because it is just a solid piece of cinema. And
no one debates that.
Yes. Well, and like I'm a bit of a nerd, and like it's a fun thing for me. I think of memories with my dad. I think of, a lot of stuff with it. It is a refreshing thing for me to do it.
Yeah.
But if I were to sit down and watch 12 hours of Star Wars movies on a Saturday, at some point there's some diminishing returns.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I remember there was a friend of ours years back, Justin Ruzanowski and I were talking about active rest and passive rest.
Yeah.
Passive rest is probably what we typically think of. It's I'm going to go take a nap.
Yeah.
And sometimes the godliest thing you can do is just go take a nap.
It's so true.
But we need that. Sometimes when we're physically tired, we need some physical rest. And that's a part of leaning into the rejuvenation that the Lord gives us physically. But sometimes it's active rest. You just mentioned like getting out in nature, man. I know one of the things that you just did in your time off is you spent some time diving.
A lot of time.
A lot of time diving, man. What does that do for you, man? And why is that important?
I remember hearing someone kind of vamping on the nature thing. I remember hearing someone say one of the greatest ways outside of God's word that he's revealed himself to us is his creation, nature.
Yeah.
And so, one, there's just something about experiencing nature that in slowing down and looking at what God's created that just is awe-inspiring.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, whether it's a top of a mountain, in Utah or Colorado or across the world or underwater, looking at just the vivid colors. And so there's something about that where I think I experience, I don't know, an aspect of God that I don't feel like I experience in other settings. And so just this ability to be one of his creation, in his creation, surrounded by his creation. And there is something special about, okay, I don't have a screen in front of me. I mean, this is God has made this for my eyes to see directly and not see it through a lens or see it through a screen or see it through. And so and to realize that I think God made a lot of this just so I could look at it and smile and go, that is so cool.
Dude, it's funny. And, not everybody is kind of, what I love about how God created us is that he's wired us all differently to engage into his character and his goodness for us. And in our recovery, that's so important because our higher power, Jesus Christ, is the only source of our strength. And we need, just like I need to, talk about how, our technology is bad. Like, not bad. It can be a distraction.
Yeah, totally.
But like my phone, I need to charge it every night or it won't work.
Yeah.
And
the irony of that.
The irony of that is I understand that intuitively, but I ignore it for my own soul. And there are certain ways that God has designed each of us, getting back to the nature thing, to charge more optimally. And I think you and I are similar in the nature aspect of it, because I know for me, like, you spent some time diving and under the water. I spent some time in the mountains this past fall.
Yeah.
And like looking at a 12,000 foot summit and looking out over the vast landscape, it reminds me like, man, I'm really small and God's really big.
Yeah.
But it's an intentional, restful time for me to be able to pause and kind of examine my smallness and compared to God's bigness. And like it reminds me how dependent I am on him. And I think rest in general does that.
Yeah.
It's the humble acknowledgement that without Jesus, I deplete myself really, really quick.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think rest, and you might be leaning into this in a few minutes here, but I think of macro rest, you know, and I think of like those things that we're talking about are those big macro rests. And I think those are definitely needed. Like, I think everyone has to have some time, I mean, I don't know, maybe every few years, and then we go in seasons, raising kids and all the things, right?
Yeah.
It's like, so those can make it hard, but having some of those macro rests, but then it's like what I have found that I really struggle with is the micro rest.
Yeah.
The day to day, the week to week. And I'll be honest, that is something that I don't know if I've really quite discovered, like how to do that well consistently.
Yeah. Well, and I, to let you off the hook and to let anybody else listening to this off the hook, I don't know if I've ever met somebody that's perfect at this. And, one of the natures of us being in recovery is it's progress, not perfection.
Totally.
And, so we hold that, but even as, my step study was going into the turn lesson and that idea of leaning into God's understanding rather than my own, following his will rather than mine. And it talked about the importance of going to the Bible regularly, opening it prayerfully, reading it expectantly, and living it joyfully. There's a regularity that, like, just on a pragmatic wisdom level, if I am not spending time in God's Word, connected to my true source of power, my battery runs dry pretty quick.
Yeah.
And maybe at first, Rodney Holmstrom has said for years that if I miss a day in my reading, I will notice it. If I miss 2 days in a row, my spouse will notice it. If I miss 3, the world notices. And there's some wisdom in that. There's some truth in that. And so, like, it's not a legalistic thing. It's a dependence thing.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I've loved about recovery for me, is it's reframed a lot of these things that were sources of shame for me into sources of, like, humble acknowledgement that I need Jesus. And so, you mentioned macro rest, micro rest. Macro rests are really good things. Taking a couple weeks to, search the bottom of Lake Tahoe or taking a couple weeks to look at Glacier National Park, like, those were good things for us. But macro rest will never truly rejuvenate us.
Yeah.
And macro rest is good, but it is made exponentially better when we can practice the micro rests more. And I remember years ago, I feel like I'm just quoting everybody. And, take this as permission if you're
that is recovery.
Yeah, there is nothing
quoting.
that I know that I haven't heard from somebody else. But there was a friend of ours, Matt Newman, who years ago I heard him talk about, like, cultivating an attitude of rest and thinking through the lens of how can I slow down and acknowledge my dependence and need for God 1 minute an hour, 1 hour in a day, 1 day in a week. Maybe is there a week I can slow down a little bit more in my month? And in a month and a year, is there in my rhythms where I can be more slow than the rest of the year? And, I haven't figured out how to do that perfectly, but for sure it's been a reminder for me of, like, and it's kind of like our daily inventory lesson in recovery, where we talk about ongoing, daily, and periodic inventories.
Yeah.
What does it look like for me to cultivate ongoing, restful dependence and need upon Jesus throughout my day?
Yeah.
The serenity prayer. Just saying the serenity prayer in the middle of a chaotic day, that is a moment of rest. But daily, is there a daily-ish time that I am setting aside to just sit with my higher power, Jesus? And maybe it's Bible reading, maybe it's journaling, maybe it's just solitude and silence. And then periodically, am I giving myself time to unplug? And if I'm not doing that micro rest, what I've realized when I get to my macro rest is that I look to that macro rest to save me rather than Jesus.
Yeah.
And that makes me more tired when I get back from the macro rest.
Yeah.
Which, for recovery-wise, like, what does that do to my recovery? It makes me more irritable.
Yeah.
It makes it
vulnerable.
more vulnerable. I let my guard down. Temptation is harder to fight. And so it's rest is everything, man. I've been rambling a little bit. What's kicking around for you?
No, it's all good stuff. I think I resonate a lot with everything you're saying. I think I think the word I keep thinking of is self-care, and I know I feel like maybe my generation or the younger generations can kind of take an unhealthy extreme of that, right? It's like
we can own that, our millennial generation.
Yeah. And so it's like, I mean, any truth taken extreme, can be a heresy, right? So it's like, I take self-care, that's what life's all about. But I do think at the heart of self-care is healthy rest. I think in a lot of ways, it's like, what does it look like to take care of myself so that I can care for others well? And so, I would say, principles 1 through 7 are about self-care, right?
Yeah.
It's about, man, how do I get my affairs in order so that I can get to principle 8 and spread God's word and like give back? We're kind of in our season of yes and give lesson and all that kind of stuff. And so if I don't have a healthy relationship with myself, and I'm not able to take care of myself and to rest well, I think I'm gonna find myself irritable. I'm gonna find myself, and so there's in some way it's funny. It's in order to be selfless, I have to take care of myself. And so there's a purpose in rest, and it's, I think, first of all, restoration and connection with God, but then I think the next purpose of rest is healthy connection and pouring into others. And so it's like, if I get those out of order too often, it's exactly what you're saying. It's like, I miss one day, then 2 days and 3 days, and eventually that's going to affect the people around me, So it just goes back to, I can't operate on no power. So I got to plug into the source and recharge.
Yeah, and I think it's appropriate to bring this up to kind of as we close out this episode. This is such a rich conversation, man. I feel like we could take so many stinking avenues with this
rabbit trails.
But I think rest is one of those things that it reminds me of my dependence on Jesus. Mm-hmm. It gives me a place to recharge. And it reminds me that who I am is more important than what I do. Mm-hmm. And rest doesn't happen by accident. Mm-hmm. And I have to lean into intentional rest in my life.
Yeah.
And part of that is being able to start recognizing when stressful seasons, higher intensity seasons, or more emotionally taxing seasons are around me. Mm-hmm. Before I got into recovery, I feel like life just kind of happened to me. Mm-hmm. And recovery has given me a framework so that I can kind of happen to life. Mm-hmm. And one of those seasons that is a really hard season for a lot of people, that in particular is really emotionally taxing, is this holiday season right now. And so as we are just a few weeks outside of Christmas, we made it through Thanksgiving, which, by the way, if you made it through Thanksgiving and, your pulse is still, active in there, like, congrats, you did it.
You made it.
You made it. You survived it. And now we got Thanksgiving and New Year's in front of us. And what does it look like for you to intentionally rest, knowing that there's stuff coming down the pipe? Mm-hmm. What does that look like for you, Michael, as you anticipate the coming weeks?
I think it involves what you were saying. What does it look like to get into God's Word? I think journaling is a big part of rest. Organizing my thoughts and getting them out. And so I'm not just spinning. I think it looks like, we have a little fire pit in our backyard, and it looks like taking time to go, you know what? Yeah, I could sit and watch a few episodes of whatever show, but what if I went and sat in our back patio area and built a fire and just sat there, And so it looks like on a Saturday, instead of, okay, we have this huge to-do list and we got to get all of this. It looks like going, hey, Mary Beth, do you want to just go grab breakfast somewhere for a couple hours and then go grab some coffee afterwards and go for a walk, and then we can come back and we'll get the stuff done. We got to get stuff done, but it looks like doing that. It looks like going to bed on time. The physical rest of things. And so it looks like, for us, we go to church on Sunday nights or Saturday nights. And so it looks like getting up on a Sunday and then 1 o'clock going, I think I might need to take just a 45-minute nap, and it's like, I'm just going to do that and feel okay with that. And that's all right. If I'm able to do that. So I think it looks like all those things, and setting aside intentional time with friends that are life-giving. I think that's a piece of it. I guess some social rest, in that regard. So yeah, all those things.
Yeah. So the three things I'm hearing you say. One is permission giving.
Yeah.
Can I give myself the grace and permission that I am a human being with limits?
Yeah.
And it's okay. And I need to make sure that I declare a finish line before my body declares a finish line.
Yeah.
So give myself permission. Be intentional to think through, hey, what are the things that I know fill my soul? What are those things? And then planning.
Yes.
Let's put it on the calendar.
Yeah.
And guard that time and lean into it.
Yeah.
And man, I think if we can do that, man, we will find the strength that we need to make it through today.
Yeah.
Which helps us make it through tomorrow. And it'll help us to get through this season and actually grow through it rather than just get through it.
Yeah.
Man. Well, Michael, what a rich time, man. Any final thoughts as we close out?
Yeah, no, I think you said it well. I think about the people who are busy, a lot busier than I am, with lots of kids and all the things. And I think you're right. The intentionality, the planning, work with your spouse, or ask a friend, hey, could you watch the kids one night? And just do your best to try to find some of those micro rests, because again, ultimately, it's like I can't run on minimal power optimally. So yeah, I think intentionality is great word.
Yeah, that's so good, man. Well, hey, Jesus reminds us in Matthew 11:28, he says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." He is the source of our strength and our power. When our battery's drained, he's the one that fuels us. It's his power in us anyway. So the heart of rest, come to Jesus. His arms are open, and he's here for us always and forever. And so if you need a group of people, a family, a forever family, if you will, to point you towards the love, grace, forgiveness, hope of that higher power, Jesus, we'd love for you to join us any single Friday night at 7 o'clock at Fellowship Rogers or Fellowship Fayetteville, Celebrate Recovery. We'd love to see you there, to walk alongside you and learn what it looks like to rest in Jesus as we find his strength for healing and hope in our recoveries. God bless.